You probably already have FileMaker Pro 11 or FileMaker Pro Advanced 11 installed on your computer. But I want to go over the system requirements briefly in case you haven't purchased FileMaker Pro 11, or if you already have it installed, to make sure it runs as efficiently as possible. If you're interested in FileMaker Server 11 system requirements, there's another VTC tutorial that covers that. Let's start out with Windows XP. You need at least Service Pack 3. You need a Pentium 3 running at 700 megahertz or higher. You also need 256 megabytes of RAM, but really 2 gigabytes of RAM is recommended because the operating system takes a lot of memory and it gives FileMaker or any other application running what's left over. And so 256 megabytes is not a lot. You want it to run efficiently, and so really 2 gigabytes is the best recommendation. You also need a DVD drive, but that's really just for installation. You don't need it for any other reason other than just installing FileMaker from the start. You also need a hard disk drive, but there's not many computers sold these days that don't have hard disk drives. You also need 1024 by 768 or higher resolution. Again, computers sold these days have far greater resolution than this, so this shouldn't be a problem. If you're running Windows Vista, you need to have Service Pack 2, a 1 gigahertz 32-bit processor, 1 gigabyte of system memory. You also need a DVD drive for installation and a hard disk drive. And don't worry about the 40 gigabytes. I haven't seen a computer sold recently that does have less than 40 gigabytes. Usually they're half a terabyte, so you should be just fine. You also need 1024 by 768 or higher resolution. For Windows 7, you need a 1 gigahertz or faster 32-bit or 64-bit processor. You also need 1 gigabyte of RAM, 32-bit, or for 64-bit you need 2 gigabytes of RAM. Again, you need a DVD drive for installation and a hard disk drive with 16 gigabytes available. That shouldn't be a big problem with computers sold these days. They have gigantic hard drives. You also need a DirectX 9 graphics device with WDDM 1.0 or higher. And you can check your computer's manual to find out whether you have this or not. And again, 1024 by 768 screen resolution. For the Macintosh, if you're running Leopard or OS 10 10.5.8, you need on an Intel Mac 512 megabytes of RAM, but again 2 gigabytes of RAM is recommended for the most efficient FileMaker. You also need a DVD drive for installation and of course a hard disk drive to store FileMaker on. If you're running Mac OS 10.5.8 Leopard on a PowerPC, then you need a G4 or G5 PowerPC chip. You need a minimum of 256 megabytes of RAM, but again 2 gigabytes of RAM is recommended, and a DVD drive for installation and a hard disk drive, of course. Now if you're running Snow Leopard 10.6, you need 1 gigabyte of memory, at least 5 gigabytes of free disk space, which shouldn't be difficult with hard drive sizes these days, and you need a DVD drive for installation and a hard disk drive to store FileMaker on it. So make sure you have all of these system requirements to make sure FileMaker runs as efficiently as possible.